Hello and welcome to this e-lecture on social networking or social media. I was saying social networking because if you look up here and see this cartoon, it talks about, what exactly is social media and what is social networking. And so you don't even have to be online in order to do social networking. So some things that I hope you take away from this lecture and from reading the chapter is to think about what is the fundamental concepts behind social media, how do you create content and sharing that content on social media, how to use that online community so you can do your marketing, and then when is it appropriate for marketers to use crowdsourcing. Also, how the content creation and opinions are important to social media. What do you do if it's a negative opinion? How should you go about addressing that? And so you also learn about how you engage in social media and what are the benefits of doing so. So let's go ahead and get started. So social media. So it can be used in your marketing campaign. And so when we talk about social media, it can be anywhere from doing Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vine. There are all kinds of social media applications out there, and you need to identify which ones your target audience is most likely to use and when they're most likely to look at that. So once you just determine that, then it's about, okay, what kind of content are they going to want to see? How do they want to connect with you? How do you want to connect with them? And how are you going to then go about sharing that online? Are you going to do it several times a day or at specific times a day? You need to think about when people are most likely online. And so current research has shown that a lot of people will look at it in the mornings before work, and then also in the afternoons after work, and then after dinner. So if you could target those times, you're more likely to get more people to read whatever you're sharing. And when I say that is you have to think about if you're not sending out your content during those times, you might send it out, but it'll get buried by other people's content that's sharing it, and they may never get to your content that you're putting out because of that timing factor. So if you're just surfing the web and you're looking at people's different content, they may be trying to engage you even just through their web page. And so if you want to come back and look at their page, you may want to bookmark that. So that's something that probably a lot of people are already familiar with, know how to do. But you want to give your visitors an opportunity to do that and make it easy for them to come back. A similar concept to that would be, if you're going to be in Twitter or Facebook, then you're going to follow those people. So that's similar to that idea of bookmarking them. Other things that you may see used are something called chiclets, and they're little icons that go next to a site that allows people to combine or aggregate different sites together and bookmark the sites that they want to get to. There's also social bookmarking that allows people that have similar interests to get to the same sites. Again, I think these concepts have kind of transformed into the following when you're using sites like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. So when you follow somebody and those people that have a like-mindedness, to follow that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a person, it can be a company, an organization, or a product, something that the organization is putting out there in order to get that engagement with their followers. So I've listed on the screen here what those chiclets are, and so this might help explain. I'm not sure the book did a good job of showing those, but those are those little icons you see next to something, And so those Facebook, used to be a lot of delicious Twitter buttons that you see nested around a blog post or article. And that's what is used for the aggregators. So I think if you'll use those, then you can get people to follow you and actually link to your site. So here's another example over here that you might see. And those are the little chiclets. So as people are bookmarking and aggregating, you can actually use that information to kind of get how people feel about your product or service. Might also help you find new competitors and new ideas if they're doing the same thing. You can then share those URLs, those links that you find interesting with your group of people that are following you, and they may go on to find and watch or follow something else. And so it's important to get that word of mouth growth. And so a lot of times that's referred to as that organic growth, where people just continually follow you, they tell other people, you make links to other sites and have that sharing so that their people can also come to your site. Right? So making that with those chiclets, putting that there where people can then click and find you, makes it easier for them to aggregate that information. So they might be reading an article, they'll click the Facebook chiclet, and that takes you to a specific site that gives them more information about you, but then they have an opportunity to actually follow you, and then you can engage with them a little more through social media. Another application that's out there that allows you to engage with your followers would be YouTube. So YouTube allows you to share videos with everybody in the world, and so you want to put things out there that are appropriate, that engages with your community, things that they want to pass that link along to and get more people to watch it. Things you should be aware of. A lot of times people are self-promoting of their products or whatever services they do, and that you would have the, chance that somebody's going to put advertising on that YouTube video that you may not want. So you're going to have to live with that. And we've talked about how that advertising works with AdWords and AdSense. And so based on whatever you're covering, you may get ads from a competitor that comes up on your screen. And vice versa. Your ad may show up on a competitor's video. Another engagement tool is a wiki. Hopefully you've probably all heard of Wikipedia. So that's a wiki. And what this is it's a website that allows a bunch of different people to edit the content on that website. So not everybody has access to it that can edit it, but it's another way of engaging your users and allow them to maybe post information or just provide them with information. A useful thing is to use this within a company to provide information to the employees. And so if you're working in HR, you may have several people that can edit this and put information in there and change information as it's needed. Sometimes you just want to engage with your followers by sharing information with them. So you may create a content sharing site. And so if you're a marketer, then that gives you some insight of how your users want to interact with you and how they think about your brand. And so you might have little games up there or other interactivities. If you're selling a food product, you might have things out there that allow people who are following you to post, how do you use this food product? What are some unique ways? And so that can get more engagement going, more talk going, and get other people to want to come in and follow that and respond. And so again, it goes back to that organic search. And as a marketing person, that's the sort of things you want to be doing, is getting that network to grow. If you remember what we talked about earlier, that the value of a network is proportional to the number of people that belong to it. So that's what we're trying to do here, is make this a valuable site where we have lots and lots of people that are coming to it. Another way to engage your followers is to do some kind of crowdsourcing. So what crowdsourcing does, it allows people that are following your site or whatever social media you're using to use their skills and talents and ideas to come up with new ways of doing things. I know Lay's Potato Chips uses crowdsourcing to come up with new flavors. You see crowdsourcing to solve problems for businesses that they couldn't solve on their own. And the benefit of this is that the company didn't really have to spend all that much money. Now, there are some companies that are, might put out there for $10,000, the top group that solves this, they'll get that money. And there may be larger values out there. But again, it's allowing you to engage with the community. The community provides some feedback, and they get to see what are some different ways of helping that company on social media. Some more ways of using social media to engage your community that's following you is to use social networking. And social networking means that you're actually got a bunch of communities that are out there, and then they can form subgroups, and they can then form little niche social networks. And so it's all about using what's available in those applications. And so those applications have different tools that you can use. And so if you're using something like Facebook, it might be for an individual, it might be for a group, you might be actually using it to market your business out there. And so they have different tools that allow you to do that, and then they have different analytical tools that allow you to monitor and see what kind of people are coming in, when they're coming in, what kind of posts they're doing. And so if you're looking for a general social network, then you might use an app like Facebook. If you're looking for a niche social type of network, and it's LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is starting to become more and more popular, especially for business contacts, and they're trying to make money by getting you to sign up for an advanced account that allows you to do more things, that has more tools that you can use your LinkedIn account to make relationships for social networking with other people. One good thing about LinkedIn is that a lot of times you can use that to find jobs. I mean, one study found that 80% of the jobs people found and accepted were through their relationships with others. So it wasn't finding in the one ad or doing some kind of online job search. So a lot of times it's done through this social networking. So when you use social networking, those networks will also collect the demographic information of the types of users, and so they're providing that when they want to join that network, and then the advertisers can then target those type of similar people, similar demographic information with their advertisements. Like I said before, if you're doing something like Facebook, which is a very general kind of social network, then they have products on there where you can actually do a business, and then that gives you a little bit more information than if you were just a regular person on there using it. But as you monitor that information, you're going to get more and more specific about who your people or users are about how they perceive your brand, how they use your brand, and they're also going to be able to tell you some problems with your brand and any kind of frustrations they are. I know I read at one time where somebody had some kind of product and the assembly of it, and a lot of people complained about how difficult it was to assemble the item, and so the company, because they listened to and read that information, was able to go back and redesign the directions on assembly and give better pictures and things, and so that was very useful for them, and that group responded with a positive view of the product then after that. One of the older ways of social media or using social media is using a blog or doing a podcast. And so a blog typically is where people just write about an item or their thoughts or whatever topic they happen to be blogging about. We've just come through an election, so there's been a lot of political blogs, but it could be a blog about certain types of products. Could be also services, what people think. So this is also related to reviews, if you will. So if you were looking at Amazon.com and you saw a review of a product, you might think of each one of those reviews as a little mini blog. So within that blog, you might have the images, text. Maybe they might link to other blogs or other websites that deal with whatever the topic is. The problem is that when you look at a blog, you have to think about, is this a person that's a professional blogger? That is, the company hired them to write positive content. And there's been several companies that have been caught hiring people that write positive content who never use their product. Well, then that becomes a problem that they have to manage, and it kind of gives them a negative perceived thought about their product by their followers. So, if you're going to set up some kind of blog, just be mindful that that anyone can publish and share their ideas, and then anybody can then respond to that. And if that becomes too negative, then you'll have a hard time trying to correct that, or at least mitigate the problems that that's causing. If you're not familiar with blogging and podcasting, so some basic things that you will see from a blog is you'll find out who was the blogger. You'll have the title, the tags, comments. An RSS feed allows you to click on that link to easily subscribe to the blog. Some different categories. You might have a blog roll, which is a bunch of other links to other blogs or websites that also commonly are read about by that blogger or this author up here. And then not all of the blogs will be on the screen at the same time, so if you want to go back and read some older blogs, there's probably an archive of that. So as a blogger, you have, if you are well known for it, you can create an online identity. You can also become a voice for your company, and then while doing that, you're actually promoting that engagement with the followers of your blog. Right? So those followers then become this community, and then we get back to this value of a network again. Again, the more people that follow you as a blogger, the more valuable that blogging is to the company. And so whoever's doing the blogging and writing that content becomes very powerful if there's a lot of followers. And so they can sway the followers on a product or service very easily. And so blogging follows a lot of the same examples of search engine optimization in terms of, you need to update your blog regularly and needs to have fresh content, or people aren't going to follow you or won't look at your content as often. You probably need to have keywords that will make your blog come up in a higher organic search result for a search engine. And so you want to also link to other sites that will link back to you. And so you also want to find an application that does your blogging that will be easy for people to use, but also look at the search engine optimization of that platform. So that'll give you a higher ranking based on the platform you're using. If you're using some obscure platform, then the search engine is probably going to give you a lower ranking and you won't come out as high. So if you ever decide to do a blog, some things you should think about or should look for in your blogging software is that, do you have the ability to have a different page for each blog you're doing? Is it easily accessible and indexed by search engines? And can it be tagged with certain keywords? That makes it easier to come up in those search engines. You should be able to assign your own metadata to that. And so the metadata was either keywords or description. Again, that helps search engines. And then, do you have those things like little chiclets? So you can do the social bookmarking to allow people to actually follow you quickly, and to set that, if you want to do the RSS feeds, those things. So here I did a search for political blogs, and you can see what came up on the screen. So we have this top 50, and then we have this link, and so on. So again, you're using that just like a web page, and make sure that you're doing things that give you good high rankings for that search engine. So let's get back to social media marketing here. And so if you're using blogs, you can actually have a corporate blogger. So this is internal to the organization, so it's a good way of communicating with the different people that are within the organization, and also some outside people as well. So prospective customers, investors, they would usually call these stakeholders. Right? When you're doing that blogging and the people are following you, you're actually building a community. You're also building a brand either for your product or service. And so you need to be very careful about what you're blogging about and how you're doing that. So if you ever wanted to become a blogger, here's some of the things that you would do, or the tasks that you would be expected to complete. So you'd write posts, you'd also reply to comments from those readers, you'd monitor other blogs that are similar to yours within the industry so you know what's going on. You'd also be current in what's going on in your industry, so you're actually talking about that. So it goes back to keeping that blog up to date and refreshed, and you don't want to just let it get old and just sit there. People will stop reading and stop coming, and then the value of having that blog goes down. So all the while you're doing this, if you're replying to the comments and writing posts and keeping it current, you're building that relationship with everybody in that community. And you may want to also increase your reputation by commenting on other blogs. If there's a lot of people following you and they see that you're commenting on other blogs, they may take to heart of what you're saying there, and then build even more community by bringing in other people. So just like having a e-marketing campaign strategy, you need to have a strategy with your blogs. And so this needs to be done before you ever start doing a blog or doing the podcasting. And so you never ever want to be caught in a lie. So you want to be as open as you can, be honest as much as you can. If you get caught not telling the truth, then you lose your credibility, and people then will stop following you. So following the same rules as a general blog, for a corporate blog, the content, you always want it to be relevant and current. You want to make it sure it's going after your target market. You want to be as honest as you can. You probably don't want to give away sensitive information. You want to make it entertaining so other people will like to read it and tell their friends and get other people to join and make that a more powerful place. So in order to get the word out about your blog, you can list your blog in the blog directory. You can ping web services with updated content so they'll know about you. You can use trackbacks, and this is a way that you can keep track of what readers are posting in other blogs, and so that gives you a summary of that blog and a link to other blogs in your blog. And so you can participate also in something called a blog sphere, which means you participate in other people's blogs. Hopefully they will then reciprocate and participate in your blog. You can also make use of blog aggregators, and those are blog things that combine a list of blogs with similar topics that are doing the same thing. And so if people are going out there and wanting to follow a blog, they could see that. Then this last item here says use traffic generating tools like MyBlogLog. MyBlogLog has gone away. You owned it and they shut it down. There are other social media sites for bloggers, and so one might be using Google+. And so Google+ actually replaced something called Google Friend Connect. And so that was shut down and replaced with Google+. And so you'll always need to be out there looking for different social media sites for bloggers so that they'll be talking about what's going on in the industry, and you can keep up with that information and use it in your own blog. There's also this concept of microblogging, and if you think about it, Twitter is microblogging. And so that's nothing more than sending text updates, some images, audio clips, and putting them online. And so those followers see that, and so then they get information, and so you could use that as well for your social media. So use Twitter. I'm not sure there's another product out there that's similar to Twitter. Twitter, I think the latest thing I saw is they were having some problems generating revenue. They haven't quite figured out their business plan on how they're going to make money, or a lot of money, and being able to grow, if you will. The key thing is that whatever you're using for your social media, you're going to need to pay attention to that and read that and see what your users are saying. You also need to look and see what your competitors are doing and how they're using that social media. If they're getting a strategic advantage over you, you're probably going to need to do the same so you can eliminate that strategic advantage. And by the same token, you're always looking for a way to get a better strategic advantage over your competitors. So again, using microblogging and the app would be Twitter would be a good way of doing this. So the next thing we want to talk about is podcasting. And so podcasting you think about as being a just voice audio. Sometimes you could have video if it's a video podcast. You download those from the internet, somebody creates them and edits them and then makes them available. Right? So you can also target that to your users that you want to attract, and you can put in some persuasive information in those podcasts. The nice thing about this, it's something that you have more or less complete control over. You can put it out there on iTunes or other sites that carry a list of different podcasts. I know that I mentioned iTunes has them, but if you go to Amazon Music, you can find some podcasts there as well, and they're just now starting to grow that. So it's sort of like blogging, but now you're doing the audio. People may put out a 30-minute podcast, once a week, and so it's a way of staying connected to your audience. It doesn't allow for that much interaction, though. Here are some positive things about podcasts. It's going to be targetable. You can measure how many people actually downloaded it and are listening to it. If you're getting any kind of feedback, you'd probably have to have a website that people can go and also post information on. So there would be maybe even a small blogging site that people could interact, and so then you could get some responsiveness from that. Okay. So podcasts can be very useful if done correctly. Some rules of engagement when you're doing your social media marketing is that, one idea is that you can engage in the conversation and you can lead it, but you can't control it. If somebody has a negative opinion and they post, you can't just delete their conversation, because that will cause an uproar in the community, and that'll be worse than when you first started. Whatever media you're using, make sure you provide a way that your users have the tools and any other resources they might need so they can talk about your product. And so you don't want to make it more difficult for them. If you're saying you need a picture, then provide pictures for them to choose from. If you need certain kind of polling tools that they can use or they need to respond to, make sure you provide that as well. If you're going to do some specific marketing, make sure that you identify it as a marketing or advertising message. And you might even have to add a disclaimer, right? But you don't want to just kind of use the site or the social media for marketing, and it's not really known to the user that it is marketing, that it might be not as truthful as it can be. And then again, make it easy for people to follow you, to get connected to you by using those little chiclets. And so some benefits of using social media, I think we've highlighted just about all of them that you see here. But the main thing is it gives you a way to interact with people online in more or less real time. So you're not going to have to wait a while to find out that people really love your product, they're using it in different ways, and you want other people to have that same experience. You have a way of getting that out. If there's something negative about your product, then you have a way of collecting that impression from your users and giving it back to whoever controls that to fix that problem before it gets to be extremely out of hand. One thing that happened recently is you see a lot of phones that would be catching on fire. I think they were Samsung phones. Well, Samsung probably could have figured out, if they did better social media marketing, that those phones were heating up and causing problems, and they could have addressed those concerns before the government had to step in and ban those phones. And so as you're using one form of social media, you probably need to think about other social media applications that you would use in conjunction with the other ones. So you don't just use one, you use a combination of those, because not all of your users are going to be using that one social media app. They may be coming in from different social media apps. We mentioned demographics briefly, but you need to think about, okay, is there a certain demographic that likes one app over another? And you see this with social media in terms of Facebook. So there may be some people that really like Facebook. They might be an older generation. The newer generation might use Instagram or whatever new social media application is coming out. You need to stay abreast of that and find out what is it that your users and your demographic of users that you want to target are using. Some other benefits of using social media, sometimes you'll get people that will become evangelists for your product or service, and they're not even employed by the company. So that becomes a really good marketing area for you, and you want to encourage those sort of things. You may also find that people that are responding and interacting with you may have other interests that are very similar, that you may also have an opportunity to engage in that area as well. And that engagement in other areas might lead to other businesses, or a shoot off of the current business you have, or lead to other different marketing strategies that you might use. And so as you're doing this, it allows you to get to a specific group of people that you want. So that's this niche targeting, right? So using social media makes it a whole lot easier if you can find that group and tap into that group and engage with them. And so just to list all that out, you see that on the screen here, this pros of social media. It's that engagement, it's targeting specific groups that we want, allowing to get that feedback going in both directions, and building our business, right? We're wanting to sell our product or service, and so we're able to do that and come up with new ideas, and we're keeping our customers happy. Just remember that once you start engaging in social media, that people can respond with negative messages, and you're going to have to deal with those negative messages and respond in a polite way, and try and solve whatever problems that your product or service is causing. Okay? So not everything can be controlled if it becomes negative. This bulleted item here is talking about, once you open it up, you don't know what people are going to respond, or how they're going to respond, or what they're going to say. So you need to have plans in place on what do you do if these are very negative. If it's something about your product that's hurting people, you want to try and get that fixed as fast as possible. If it's how things are done when it's used, you want to try and fix those problems as well. Tell people that you mentioned it to upper management and they're working on a solution, and make sure that's actually happening. You don't want to just say things to kind of ease their concerns when in fact the company's not really changing anything. And so that ends this chapter on social media marketing.